Strap in for the world's fastest half hour. You're on the Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. And brought to you by Hercules Tires and Grunt Style Apparel. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Herbert and Marty Huff.
This is the Straight Line on Drag Racing. Thanks for stopping by our half hour of horsepower. Appreciate you being with us as we prepare for the Mile High Nationals. That means it's our annual crew chief show. And Colorado native Matt Hines will be here to discuss bikes in the thin air. We're in the beams and set to launch another edition of the Straight Line. Wherever you may be, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Straight Line on Drag Racing at MRN.com. Along with four-time IHRA Top Fuel champion and 10-time NHRA National Event winner Doug Herbert, I am Marty Huff. Getting set for the Western Swing, starting it off with Bandimere and up in Denver, Colorado, and we'll have more about that coming up here later on in the show. First, we want to start here just this past weekend. You were in Southern California for a lot of different things. Some break schools, had some meetings going on, but also the memorial for Tom the Mongoose McEwen, and it was kind of a who's who of drag racing showing up for to remember Goose.
Really was. It was a really neat thing. You know, all the guys get together that we've known for all these years, and that McEwen, you know, raced with for over 50 years. So it was a really neat thing, and all the guys got to get up there and tell some mongoose stories, and you know, I mean, it's not very often you see John Force choked up where he can't talk, and this was one of those, and Perdome as well, and just a bunch of neat guys. I sat next to Bill Simpson, you know, Simpson Products. I hadn't seen him in years, and he's a great guy, and had a chance to talk to him and chat a little bit with John Force and Don Perdome and you know, Donnie Couch and all the guys that are, you know, that have been around a long time. And it was really neat. I think very respectful to Tom the Mongoose. You know, it was nice to get everybody together and to know how much Tom McEwen had to do with giving people's advice. You know, he'd always call me, Dougie, what's up, man? Let me tell you something. And he just, you know, he was in the know, and those guys have their Tuesday, you know, luncheon that you know, 50, well, maybe not 50 guys, but a dozen guys or more would always go to, you know, Bill Cool and just all the, you know, Austin Coyle and, you know, all these old guys. And just really neat to see them get together, and how much respect and admiration and heart everybody had for Tom the Mongoose McEwen. Just a neat guy. That's a huge loss for us.
Yeah, and had an opportunity to spend a little time with Snake as well, and obviously he's been kind of the forefront of this whole deal, and most of the spotlight, unfortunately, has been shined upon him. You know, because they're kind of this inseparable duo.
They're teammates for so long. Yeah, basically.
Right, yeah, exactly. And how's Snake doing?
You know, I think he was doing as well as could be expected. You know, I mean, he said he lost one of his very best friends for you know, for his whole life, but you know, he was great to me. You know, that's what we've talked about it on the show, right? Racing Don Perdome, he's just not a very fun guy. You know, he's just not very fun. But you know, every time we've had him on the show, he's been awesome. And then, you know, just talking to him over the past 10 years or so that I haven't had to be racing against him or his drivers. Boy, he's a lot nicer guy when you don't have to race him. You know, when you're racing him, he's just like, gosh darn, it's hard to like him so much. But he is a good guy, and I think he took a lot of you know, a lot of the weight on his shoulders to put that event together. His wife Lynn, I believe, did you know, a lot of the work, and you know, Bob Fry you know, talked, and you know, Dave McClellan. I mean, just all these guys that you know, that we don't see every day. But it was neat to know how much respect that Tom the Mongoose McEwen had from everyone, you know, including me. I mean, that was way up there at the top.
There was a lot of people that we don't get the opportunity to see a whole lot out there nowadays. You know, rather stay home. Spent many decades out on the road. Big Mac being one of them. Bob Fry being another one of those. If you know, if I saw a lot of the social media posts out there, and so it was.
Had a nice chance to talk with Proc. You know,
Austin
Prock.
Yeah.
Had a really nice talk with him, and he was getting me updated on his licensing with the funny car and what's going on, and I was trying to give him some coaching advice, and he had it down pretty well. I got to say, I'm pretty impressed. I think he's going to be a good, really good funny car driver as he gets the opportunity to get in that car and do more.
Jimmy Prock's son, Austin Prock, and he's kind of in the pipeline at John Force Racing, doing work on the blowers right now, I believe, for Courtney Force's car, getting some hits in some alcohol cars, and he's going to be one of the next ones to watch coming up the line. When we return, we'll talk about Bandimere, we'll talk about the Western Swing, and how to make horsepower up on the mountain. Matt Hines will join us next.
O'Reilly. Save on your next oil change with 5 quarts of Valvoline Max Life motor oil and a MicroGuard filter, on sale now for the same price as Valvoline Conventional at $25.99. Extend the life of your vehicle and improve engine performance with Valvoline at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
MRN.com. Original online audio, video, and digital content. Need the latest information on each week's races? Check out the MRN.com Race Center. Need to find your local radio station for MRN original programs and Camping World Truck, Xfinity, and Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series races? Go to Stations on MRN.com. All the latest NASCAR news and opinion pieces, race schedules, driver standings, and archives of MRN programs, MRN race broadcasts, and so much more. MRN.com.
Calling all admirers of the King.
For Richard Petty, the STP Pontiac.
We have the place for you. Celebrate the life and career of NASCAR's all-time win leader, Richard Petty.
The hat came about in the late 70s.
From the legend behind the King's famous crown to thrills and spills that the Hall of Famer had over the years.
Petty is slamming into the wall.
It's Richard Petty's Road to Royalty, and it's available for free to download on iTunes and MRN.com right now.
Welcome back to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's more with Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Thanks for being here on MRN.com this week. Appreciate you being here. Getting ready for the Western Swing. We start with the Mile High Nationals this week at Bandimere Speedway, and right now on the telephone line with us, on the Racing Electronics hotline, is a Colorado native, kind of a homecoming for this guy, now based in Indianapolis, but for many years was out of Colorado. And so, like I said, it's a bit of a homecoming. Matt Hines joins us, crew chief of the Vance & Hines Screaming Eagle Harley-Davidson crew. Matt, thanks for being here. We really appreciate your time.
Hey, it's great to be on. Looking forward to it.
Hey, Matt, you've been going to Denver a long time, and you and I have known each other a long time. Back when we took our trip to Japan, 20-something years ago, that was a lot of fun. And since then, you've had a lot of success with 4 wins of your own at Denver, and then many more as a crew chief. Tell us a little bit about the challenges of going to Denver and what gives you guys kind of an advantage, it seems, up there.
When I started racing there, it was back in '96. And even before that, with my dad was racing the Yamaha, we just kind of like teed a little bit there and try to figure out what it took to get it to run on the mountain. And the motorcycles are tough, normally aspirated. They only make like say 300 to 400 horsepower, and being up on the mountain, you lose about 30% of your horsepower. So it's about trying to get that back and see if you can get the bike to run. So usually it's we usually stack a few teeth on the rear sprocket, like 3 teeth, and crank the RPM up another 1,000 off the launch, maybe more, and just try to get it up in the RPM range where it makes horsepower all the way down the track.
Matt, is there changes that you can make to the engines, raising compression up or different things like that, or the engines kind of stay the same and like you said, it's gear ratio changes and RPM shifting changes and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's a few things. You might be able to get away with bumping the compression. Depends on how high you are already. We did do a little bit of work to our motors for this race, like we have the last couple of years. We've had success just running our standard stuff up there too, but it's more about getting the fuel right and getting the timing set correctly. Really focusing on the tune-up. It's really a tuner's race. You have to make sure you got every bit of power going down the track. and usually we hit it pretty good right off the bat. We'll show up there on Friday, fire up our bikes. It sounds like we never even left the track. Like we've been there all these years. But and then we bring it out of the truck, and usually we can send it down the track pretty good. And then some of the other guys, you'll see them running like 740s, and we're going out there going 17s. And then by Sunday, a lot of the field is started closing the gap, and you start getting a few other guys going 720s and 17s. So it's a really big challenge. It's really interesting to watch some of these guys that have never been there to the track, to watch them struggle. And you go try to help them out a little bit, but you don't want to give away all your secrets.
Right.
Matt, Tim Kalungian and his guys with the electronic fuel injection have really kind of got that dialed in over the last couple of years for Jerry Savoy, Ellie Tonglet, and those guys. Is there a little bit of an advantage, or is there no advantage with the electronic fuel injection up there on the mountain?
There is an advantage, but you got to be really careful, because you're telling that engine what to do at every RPM range, fuel and timing through every gear. You might have to pick on one cylinder. You say you might have fourth gear where it's a little lean, and in one cylinder, you might have to start feeding it some fuel or taking fuel away depending on what's going on. So the carburetors work pretty well, but if you're really good at getting the whole tune-up and really dialed into the engine's performance, you might get that extra 1 or 2%, which might make all the difference in the world.
Hey, Matt, a lot of history with you guys racing motorcycles with your dad and Terry Vance, and then you come along and your brother come along. What's that been like to grow up at the racetrack and watch, your dad and Terry have so much success for so long? I mean, I remember hanging on the fence at Orange County International Raceway watching them race way back when, and I know you've been around them all your whole life.
Oh yeah, just following in their footsteps, and it's quite a bit of pressure. We're sponsored by Harley Davidson also, and we're trying to represent the brand and Vance and Hines, and live up to the standards that everyone expects. And sometimes we don't quite hit the nail on the head, and we might lose a early round here or there, but we just try to regroup, and we know we got great stuff, and it's just a matter of making the best runs we can and staying consistent, keeping our heads down and focused, and doing our jobs.
Matt, how much do you have to change the bike going back to Sonoma? Obviously, the Pro Bike Shootout is there. There's a little bit extra on the line, but are you field stripping those bikes and getting them back to the regular setup? What is that like to go from that altitude down to sea level all in 1 week?
It's a pretty big change, talking a fuel map, and there could be the clutch setup is completely different, so it might take you a run or two to get back in the swing of things in Sonoma. Make sure your clutch is dialed back in. Sometimes we've worn out our clutch plates, and we put it back to where it was, like in Norwalk for Sonoma or close to it, and then you might start having some issues, and so we don't quite stay on top of the clutch program, maybe as close as like a pro stock car team does, but we kind of have a pretty good idea where we're at. But every now and then, you can get a little bit sidetracked. So it might take a few hours. Usually it's rear sprocket, a lot of clutch tuning changes, getting the software back where it belongs. And, it could be a wheelie bar setting and some other stuff like that. We'll have to chase back. So sometimes we'll do a whole engine swap too after Denver. We'll take that engine out, put it off to the side, put a whole nother engine in that's ready for sea level.
Doug talks about it a lot here. If having a home race is kind of nice, where you get to see a lot of people that you haven't seen, but that also there's a lot of pressure with that, and a lot of people that you got to see. Obviously, you guys are from that area, so is this kind of a good news, bad news sort of deal where you get to come home, but you don't get a whole lot of time to yourself, right?
You'll see some friends. We don't really have any family there besides Andrew's son still lives in southern Colorado. So we'll see just quite a few people that we know, and have known from that race, just from coming to that race.
Sure.
usually we get a little bit more distraction here in Indianapolis or at the Pomona race with everybody from Vance and Hines showing up. So Denver's just kind of like a nice, it's good to be home, it's good to visit, see everybody, and the fans are always great there, and we just love running there. It's a big challenge, so if you can come out of there with a win, it's like, I don't know, it's just like a mid-season high point for us.
Matt Hines, crew chief for the Vance and Hines Screaming Eagle Harley. Matt, thanks for joining us. Known you a long time. Great to see the success that you've been having, not only as a racer, but as a, just as a crew chief and a driver and everything that you do. So congratulations and good luck at Denver and good luck on that Western Swing.
All right, thanks, Doug.
See you
Thanks,
guys.
Marty. Appreciate it.
That's Matt Hines. He is the crew chief of the Vance and Hines Screaming Eagle Harley Davidson's, driven by his brother Andrew and also Eddie Krawick. And
last year's winner, Eddie Krawick.
So lots of success there. Obviously, there's been a lot of experience up there. But when you're the best in the business, you're expected to be the best everywhere. And whether you're at sea level, whether you're at altitude, everybody's expecting you to do well, and they deliver.
Well, I think about it. I remember when Terry Vance won that race. So between Matt, we just had on the phone, winning the race 4 times, Andrew winning it 5 times, Terry Vance probably won it 3 or 4 times, and then Eddie Krawick won it last year, and I don't know how many other years. So it's kind of, that's playing the table pretty well for the Denver race. They've won that race probably, over a dozen times. And then you got to figure they do the engines and stuff for other guys. So they've got an incredible amount of data and engine information from Denver.
Your buddy Alan Johnson, who for many years won that race, a ridiculous amount of
6 times win and runner-up a couple more.
Yeah, and so it's kind of the same situation. Once you've got the mojo going there, you do whatever you can to continue that. And if it's kind of the same situation. Alan Johnson and the Harley guys, winning that race so many times.
Yeah, right. We went to the final there a couple times, and then went to the semis a few times. And it's hard to run good there. And a lot of times, being a fuel car, you've got a lot of carnage. I remember, I think the year that we went to the final, we put 8 engines. So we made 8 runs and we put 8 engines in. So we went to, I don't remember if it was Sonoma or Seattle was the next race after. Back then they changed it around a couple times. But we went and basically had no engines left. Like you blew up everything in the trailer, going to Denver. So it happens, but it's a tough race to run. But a lot of changes, as Matt was saying, to the motorcycle, a lot of changes. The fuel cars have an incredible amount of changes. It's a lot of changes.
Yeah, and we'll talk about those changes after the break here, because we'll ask Doug about what you need to do to get a fuel car down the track. Matt talked about getting a naturally aspirated motor down the track. It's a little bit tougher with the naturally aspirated, but there's a lot of things you can do with a nitro motor, and we'll talk about that next. First, we need to talk about the Ridge. It's the last wallet you'll ever buy. It comes in titanium, carbon fiber, aluminum, polycarbonate, and a dozen different styles and colors. Get 10% off with free shipping worldwide by going to ridgewallet.com. That's ridgewallet.com, and use the promo code RACING. Ditch your bulky wallet today and get the Ridge Wallet at ridgewallet.com.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there, no matter where the road takes you. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
O'Reilly.
When it comes to safety, nothing is more important than your vehicle's brakes. If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing or grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best and Brake Best Select at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brakes from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Are you ready?
To help children forget about their serious medical conditions so they can just be a kid.
Yeah!
Then support Victory Junction, which is the dream of late race driver Adam Petty, who wanted to build a camp where children concentrate on fun and laughter, not illness or disability. At Victory Junction, kids enjoy ziplining, horseback riding, swimming, fishing, all in a medically safe environment, all at no cost to the camper. What do you say, Richard Petty?
Let's do this.
Learn more at victoryjunction.org.
You're listening to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now, back to Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Appreciate you being here on MRN.com this week as we're headed to Vandermeer Speedway and getting started with the Western Swing. We're going to talk a little nitro right now and how to get a nitro car down the racetrack. Joining us right now on the Racing Electronics Hotline is the crew chief for the Mac Tools Top Fuel Dragster for Coletta Motorsports, a good friend. Jim Oberhofer joins us. Jim-O, how are you?
I'm doing good, Marty. How about you guys?
Man, we're doing good. Are you staying busy getting ready to go tune that thing up in Denver?
We are, Doug. It's been a pretty busy week and a half since Epping, and we're excited about going and racing on the mountain.
Hey, Jim-O, tell us about some of the things that change on those cars going to Denver. I mean, there's guys in the pits that have a hard time even getting their cars started. And obviously you've been there plenty of times, and you got the rad man there to tell you what to do, even if it's not the right things. Tell us a little bit about going to Denver and what you guys have done to have success over the years.
Well, Denver's definitely a different animal, with the altitude and everything. But, the last few years we've been pretty fortunate that it seems like, I don't want to, tuning one of these things never gets easy, but it's not too far different than what you are racing, at maybe some of our sea-level places. Of course, you run a lot more compression ratio in Denver. You run a little bit more blower overdrive. You run more nitro percentage, more timing, things like that. But the one thing that we found over the last few years with the advances in supercharger technology, cylinder head technology, is that we're able to burn a lot more fuel up there, and that in itself allows us to make more power there than what we've ever made in Vandermeer. And, last year we made some pretty good runs. I was looking back at our notes. We made 5 runs there, and we made 2 runs in the 370 zone, one a 376, which ended up being the second quickest time up there, a 379, and a bunch of low 380s. And did well, and we saw some pretty good numbers out of, some of the other dragsters and funny cars there. And couple that with the great racing surface that they have there, that the Vandermeer family and Larry Crisp, that whole first 330 foot is cooled by water, so it really makes for a really good racing surface.
Wow. And, with the top field cars and funny cars, too, the aerodynamics going up there. I know, like, Tim Richards would go up there and he'd put less wing in because he thought that was the way to go. And most everybody else went the opposite way. What do you do on your cars for that? And then the funny cars, maybe not as much ability to make big changes like that.
Well, we used to go there and, back when NHRA said, hey, you guys can only run 2 degrees maximum in your main element on your rear wing, except for Denver. So we would go back to Denver, and you'd see a lot of guys put their wings back up to 5 degrees and all that kind of stuff. And last year when we were there, we had half of that. I mean, we were not running that much rear wing. We made like a 1 degree change from, let's just like a racetrack like Brainerd or Topeka or something like that. We basically put 1 more degree of rear wing in the thing at Denver, and you put a little bit more front wing in it, to keep the front end down, and it wasn't as big of a change as we used to make.
Wow.
And the funny car is kind of the same thing. They don't run as much spoiler on the back as they used to, and then they have their header angle stuff that they worked with over the years, so they might put stand the headers up a little bit more than what they have been doing. But it's kind of a fun deal. It's a great atmosphere up there because the Vandermeer family has done just such an amazing job promoting that race and the upkeep on the facility is amazing, and it's like they sell that place out almost every day. It's just really a cool atmosphere.
Jimmo, we talk a lot about getting these cars down the racetrack, but there's also challenges in getting them stopped. What are the things that you work on in trying to get these things stopped after going, way over 300 miles an hour?
Well, up in Vandermeer, there's, with not having that sea level air, the parachutes, when the drivers hit the chutes, they're not as effective as what they are down at sea level. So you'll see, drivers really get on. A lot of drivers, they hate pulling bull chutes because I think Doug could probably tell you, like, hey, packing those things is a pain in the butt, And Doug Coletta, he's like that. And fortunately for us, Doug's, I think I can maybe say he's gone into the sand trap maybe once or twice in his whole career. But it's one of those things you'll see there that drivers will start, they'll pop two chutes, and we'll make sure that our brakes are in really great working order, things like that. And that place there, obviously it's an uphill shutdown area, which helps, but you got to be on your game, and the track really is a little bit short up there, believe it or not. But it's a good place, and when the driver does their job right and gets on the brakes and gets on the parachute right, they usually should have no trouble getting the car stopped. Usually what happens there is if you see a malfunction, so if you have a parachute that fails right away, that's when things get a little dicey up there for the drivers.
Yeah, you got to be right on the brakes real quick. What about, is that one of the places, I know Connie a few years ago, he said, now, Joe Paisano, I've had too much bad luck there. I'm not even going to Denver. That was the only place I think I've ever seen him wear shorts. Is Connie going this year, or he stays home from that one?
Nah, he's staying home this year. He, Connie's 80 years old, and we always joke about that's not 80 clean years of living.
Yeah.
By Connie. But he's, Connie's really doing pretty good, like with his health. Like, he's sharp as a tack as usual, and but he struggles, still struggling with his knee and things like that, and it makes it tough for him to get around. And then, just it's tough on normal people up there,
right,
that are healthy. And I think he just would rather watch it at home on TV and cheer us on from his place in Belleville, Michigan.
So, Jimmo, we just had Matt Hines on and talking about stripping their bikes down after the race to go back to sea level. What are the processes that you guys have to do with a fuel motor to get those cars ready 1 week later to race at sea level?
Well, a lot of what we do, we changed the fuel system around a little bit. So we have, like for us, we have like specific nozzle combination that we run up there. We have fuel pumps, stuff like that. But really, pretty much, we're not doing a whole lot more changing. So for us to get ready to go back down to sea level in Sonoma, it's just a matter of, putting the right jets back in the cylinder heads and the manifold, putting the right pulleys on, probably putting some thicker head gaskets on, and heading down to Sonoma. The old days, it used to be a lot more. Sometimes we would have specific short blocks built for there with much higher compression pistons and things like that, but we don't see that as much anymore. And we used to really worry about parts damage up in Vandermeer, but because we would run the engine so lean up there because you're trying to keep from dropping cylinders and things like that. But last year we went there, like I said, we made 5 runs and we didn't hurt one part.
Wow.
On the Mac Tools car. So, man, anytime you can get out of that place unscathed, it's a great feeling. So I think it's really a credit to the advancement in the superchargers and cylinder heads and being able to put some more volume in the engine up there. to make that extra horsepower. I think it really has made everybody's combination a lot happier and user friendly when we get up there on the mountain.
Wow. Well, Jim Oberhofer, crew chief for Doug Coletta and the Mac Tools Coletta Motorsports Top Fuel Dragster. Jimmo, thanks for calling in. Thanks for joining us and sharing a little bit of insight as to what's going to happen with all the Coletta Motorsport cars going up to Denver. So good luck at Denver and good luck on the Western Swing, buddy.
All right. Thank you, guys, and thanks for spending the time with me.
Mac Tools crew chief Jim Oberhofer joining us on the Straight Line. And when we return, we'll talk a little bit about the Western Swing, what's coming up, and also our segment Red Light, Green Light, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. That's coming up.
O'Reilly.
If your AC is blowing hot air, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help. Get immediate relief with Interdynamics R134A refrigerant for $9.99. AC recharging is fast and easy with Interdynamics R134A refrigerant at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Things happen fast in racing, and if you don't know where to look, you can miss it all. With Legend from Racing Electronics, you'll never miss another moment. Legend gives you live fan vision video, in-car cameras, and stats at premier National Series events. And the next generation race scanner for unfiltered driver and crew audio at any motorsports event nationwide. Race fans have never been closer to the action. Welcome to the future of the fan experience. Learn more by visiting racingelectronics.com.
Hi, this is Mike Bagley. Join me and the rest of the MRN crew every Tuesday night for NASCAR Live. We'll put a bow on the weekend's action and get you ready for the upcoming race with the biggest names in the sport.
As you look at that particular race, that's been one of our best races over the years, and I think every driver in the garage is looking forward to racing this particular package.
Hear exclusive interviews, expert analysis, as well as stuff you won't hear anywhere else.
Oh yeah, good job, guys. Good job.
It's NASCAR Live this Tuesday night at 7 Eastern on the Motor Racing Network.
You're staged and ready for another run on the Straight Line. Brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's Doug and Marty.
Big thanks to Jim Oberhofer for joining us kind of last second here on the Straight Line. So a big thanks to Jimmo for joining us, and all of our guests are come to you via the Racing Electronics hotline. For 30 years, Racing Electronics has been the #1 choice for racing scanners, headphones, and the popular Fan Vision handheld unit. Check out all the new great products online at racingelectronics.com. Time now for our O'Reilly Auto Parts segment that we like to call Red Light, Green Light. And the green light is Western Swing. All 3 races, Bandimere, Sonoma, and up at Seattle, all are going to be live on Fox Network, not Fox Sports 1. Fox Sports 1 does a great job in getting to as many houses as possible, but we're talking about the Fox Network, Fox Regular.
It's a lot big reach. That's a really big reach. So, yeah, great outcome for the NHRA being on Fox Sports. You're on Fox, main network.
Yeah.
So, just introducing new people that maybe wouldn't tune into drag racing.
Correct.
All of a sudden they're flipping through the low channels and there's drag racing on. So, kind of like in the old days. I mean, we were on, CBS, NBC, ABC, and stuff like that. So now to be on the main Fox network channel, that's a great thing. I think a great cap. Feather in the cap for the NHRA, and that'll help a lot of the teams. I mean, that generates sponsorship, that generates interest. So, great deal there.
Yeah, and especially during the Western Swing, because and that's 3 races that a lot of people concentrate on, give a lot of attention to. So not only is maybe some people that are laymen to drag racing maybe tuning in, but obviously the drag racing faithful, they're really interested in what's going on in the Western Swing. So this is hitting both sides of the fence really well, and so that's definitely a green light for the sport of drag racing, is to have 3 of those races, and actually it would be 3 of the next 4 being on Fox Network, because obviously Indy has at least part of that
that'll
weekend
be live on Fox.
will be also on Fox as well. All right, and while we're here, Jim Oberhofer was talking about the new combinations basically over the last couple of years, and not having nearly as much parts attrition as you were talking about. A lot more happy engines, which means a lot better racing.
Well, it sounds like just less tuning changes now. So the new superchargers are kind of making the engines run smoother up there at Denver. And even though, that's mile highs, so there's not as much air going in the engine, but apparently just being more efficient with the supercharger, the new cylinder heads, all the stuff they have. Not quite as many changes as we used to make in the old days, which means less opportunity for mess ups from all those changes that we used to have to make. So definitely good, and hopefully Jimmo and the Cutter Motorsport team will get it done well this weekend.
Big thanks to Matt Hines and Jim Oberhofer for joining us here on the Straight Line. So for everybody involved, for Daryl Smith, I'm Marty Huff. He's Doug Herbert, and we'll talk to you next week on the Straight Line.